to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I will be your host for today, which I don't know what day it is anymore. Joining me today, because it's long overdue, is Emma Larkins. And Emma Larkins knows an awful lot about board games and design and just lots of stuff, which we're going to talk about, and they're going to regale us with all their knowledge and their information and also what they've been up to. So, hello Emma, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing fantastic today.
Oh yeah, well, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. You're just back from PAX, you were saying. So,
yeah.
Is that quite local to you, or did you have to travel quite a distance to do that?
Yeah, it's about, 7 blocks away. Yeah, we're in downtown Seattle, so it's nicely close.
I thought you were going to kind of like say I had to take like a 7-hour flight and then I had to stay over and stuff like that, but basically you're like, where everybody's kind of queuing up for stuff, you're kind of like, right, I'm going home for lunch and I'll be back in an hour kind of thing. Well, you all know the kind of the conference food prices at these things are usually like as much as a ticket to get in. They're fairly kind of astronomical.
Yeah.
Obviously what we're going to do is we're going to find out a little bit more about your good self to kind of I guess we should say hello to all the good people out there and just say thank you for joining us. And the reason that we're doing this is because we're cruising towards episode 200. I don't know when it's happened. It might have happened already. But we are continuing our ongoing voyage to... no, that's Star Trek, sorry. Just to talk to as many people as possible. So you want to start off by telling us a little bit about how you got kind of into the hobby to begin with?
Yeah, absolutely. I came at it kind of backwards, I suppose. Mm-hmm. In the modern times, I guess I would say, like in the before times, long ago, I've always kind of been interested in games and play and stories and those kind of things. I used to make up choose your own adventure stories for my siblings during long car drives. Did a little bit of like modding and StarCraft and like dabbling in like here and there, but I think I would say I really came at it with a vengeance when I was living in New York City. And I was actually doing a Kickstarter for my science fiction novel.
All right.
So as I was doing that, I started to reach out to other groups that were kind of known for having a lot of people doing Kickstarters. And one of those was the New York City Games Forum, because, you know, a lot of people, especially, this is 6 or 7 years ago, yeah. Especially in that time, a lot of people were doing digital game Kickstarters. So I reached out to the group and found out, like I did a talk there and then found out it was actually a really cool group of people. And through a series of fortunate events, I actually ended up being the community manager for that group in New York City. So before I even really became serious about making games, I was running a group of people, amazing developers. New York City has an amazing game development scene.
Did you blag it? Did you blag it then? Did you kind of give me a second, let me check Google kind of thing for stuff over you know, what kind of strategy do you like in Catan? Let me just check what Catan is first of all.
Yeah, well, so and that was more digital development, and then I actually met Phil, who's my fiance now, through, like, we were both in the same co-working space, and he was a tabletop game designer.
All right.
And we were, like, going to these game design events together before we started dating. And so he kind of pulled me more into the tabletop side. And honestly, Catan, right? Like, I had played Catan in college, but really, like, modern games, I hadn't done a lot. Like, I meet so many people in the tabletop industry who are just like, you know, hundreds of new games played every single year. And very much when I started, I was like, I played like Munchkin and Flux and stuff in my kind of year of discovery, and I was like, oh wow, so this is like what modern games are like.
But there's nothing wrong with that. You know, you can play, you kind of play what you can, and you enjoy what you can, and there's always a little bit of, you see it now and again, a little bit of snobbery from some people about kind of what they should be playing and what they shouldn't be playing, and it's like, well, play what you like, and if you have fun. I mean, I occasionally crack open a copy of Love Letter just to, you know, just to look at it and then put it away and play something else. But the same. Well, there's so many variations and flavors. It's kind of like Heinz, 57 different varieties of kind of Love Letter. Yeah. But I mean, did you kind of like grow from there then? As in, were you like going, well, Flux and then Munchkin, and then people, you know, Phil was obviously introducing you to more and more stuff, and you're discovering your kind of more stuff yourself then?
Kind of. I guess like he had a lot of tabletop games. We like to call it our wall of shame now.
Right.
And he would back a lot of the Kickstarters back in the day, especially for the Red Raven, Ryan Lockett games. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, especially, you know, we were starting to get to know each other, and like all these board games on the shelf, like we usually wouldn't play them. Honestly, we did more digital gaming back in the day than tabletop gaming, but they were there. I could see them and look at them in the shelf and be like, oh, I wonder what those are like. But honestly...
You didn't get a shot. You didn't get to play.
We did, though. So we eventually like started to delve into them. And one of the first ones we did was City of Iron by Ryan Lockett. So I went from, you know, Flux, Munchkin, Skull, those kind of things, to City of Iron. And it was like, that was my... what's the right term in the board game world? Like my awakening, my kind of like aha moment, because the game took us like 3.5 or 4 hours. Like it's probably not the heaviest, but the heaviest I'd ever played.
Isn't that kind of like, you know, learning how to jump 3 feet in the air and then somebody taking you to the side of the cliff and saying, right, now all you got to do is flap your arms and fly, kind of thing.
Yes, I had no idea. I had no idea what it would be like. And then we were just sitting down, and afterwards I couldn't move. I couldn't like think. I felt like I had melted, and I was like, I think I kind of like it. Right? And that's what it is when you have that like heavier tabletop experience. Either you hate it, right? And you're like, I'm never going to do that again, or you're like, I think everything, my brain hurts, but I think in a good way.
It's kind of like that whole getting away from having like one mechanic kind of thing that you got to concentrate on and one set of rules, and then people are saying, well, you then have to get used to kind of like, well, if this happens, then this can happen, and if this happens, then potentially this can happen, but in 5 moves, this is definitely going to happen, or it's not going to happen at all, kind of thing. And it's going to like, your mind kind of goes, I didn't even know this was possible. Especially when you see like what you think is like a messy kind of board game, and you're the one I'm talking about. It's got cards everywhere. There's like counters everywhere, and you're just like going, I am never ever going to understand in a month of Mondays how this is ever going to work. And then like say 10 minutes later, you're, you know, kind of thinking about how you can rewrite the rule book to introduce kind of your own set of mechanics.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Kind of thing. So from there, did you start to kind of, were you building up your own collection, or did it become a joint collection? You're playing kind of digital. So what were you, console gaming or PC gaming, or were you just playing tabletop simulation stuff?
Yeah, mostly PC gaming. Because I came, again, playing as a kid. Like we had, we had the classics. You know, probably had Monopoly and other stuff. But we got into digital games. My dad was a software developer, so we actually had a computer like way back in the day.
Yeah.
And we could play things like Commander Keen, Cosmos, Cosmic Adventure, Simant, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And after that, the Blizzard games. Like, my brother would bring home Warcraft, Starcraft, and those RTSs, I just, like, laser focus glommed onto them. Like, that was really my intro into to gaming.
So was that you, like, an RTS type person then? Kind of real-time strategy, was that kind of like your bag?
Yeah, I think it was, and that was probably because that was what I had access to at the moment. But this feeling, and back then too, it was all against the computer, right? So it was a puzzle you could solve. Like, the computer was always going to send out certain types of units in a certain order, and you could figure out what was happening. It was a very complex puzzle, and you were also like building up things and systems. I think, like, systems is really like managing this complex interweaving system of systems where, like, things are building and you have to, like, come over here and, like, look over here, and it really, like, fires all of your neurons at the same time, pretty much.
I remember seeing Dune for the first time, which was an old kind of real-time strategy game, and having my mind completely blown by, because it wasn't kind of, it was different to any kind of action game I was playing, and I was like, well, I need to do this, and it's like, well, you can't do this because you got to build this first, and if you build this, then you can build that, and then you can upgrade stuff, and I was like going, wow, this is like SimCity, but fun.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about SimCity kind of in the day when it was pretty bad, but... you know,
right.
So the game groups, so you're starting to kind of run and kind of organize these game groups.
Yeah.
Then, you're naturally kind of like pouring into kind of playing more games and more games. So where do you take the switch? I mean, obviously you mentioned you wrote a book. So quick aside, what was the book about?
Oh, geez. It's called Mechalarum. It's about, let me get the pitch out of the back of my brain. Strong heroine Kielen risks slow death for the power of biomechanical flight. So it's kind of this, and this is weird. I mean, this is before really the Iron Man movies and everything. So this, she's in this like biological flying suit. And in this society, like, the whole planet has been, like, decimated by aliens, and this small core society is left to fight back against them under this sandstorm, and they're, like, hiding out there. And it's a very, like, militaristic, strict society. And then over time, like, really right in the beginning is when Kielen starts to realize everything she's grown up with maybe isn't exactly reality, and, kind of this hero's journey thing of, like, being expelled from this society and having to relearn and figure out, like, the meaning of your life.
Was it fun to kind of put together, or was it a challenge? Or, I mean, people always say, like, these things, you either kind of, like, you end up writing kind of, like, for ages and ages and ages, and, like, scrapping stuff, and then 50% of kind of what you do you scrap straight away, and then 15% you kind of rewrite until it's death, and then you end up rewriting that again until you sometimes have something that you can say, well, I'm proud of, but you have to give it to somebody else to read, because otherwise you'll keep changing it, because I've kind of been there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I kept track, I would have to double check on my stats, but I think every time I got rid of words, I copied, pasted them into another document. Yeah. And I think it was like 150 or 160,000 words that I got rid of.
Wow.
So that there's like a whole book's worth of words, and then just this whole other like 2 books worth of stuff that was just gone.
So it's like a director's cut.
Yes. Oh no, it was so bad. Oh gosh, it was, especially my first version of the book, because I was like, I'd written the first draft, and then I was working for this startup tech company that was interested in Kickstarters, And so I was like, well, I got this book, like I could like kickstart that. And they're like, sure, you know, we'll support you and kind of help you do the Kickstarter. You'll learn about it, and then we could move into that space. So I like did the Kickstarter and everything, and then like went back and I was like, oh gosh, this is so bad. It was like she was a princess. Like she was literally a princess of this like patriarchal society, and then tech and stuff, and it's just like, no. So yeah, there's not the director's cut, like the trash can, like all of that is in the trash and should never ever be looked at by anyone.
Do you ever read it again?
Yeah. Okay. Do I read it?
Yeah.
I haven't in a while, but I've like I like to refer to it, or if people are like, oh, I don't know if I can write, you know, my first draft is so bad, I'm like, I'll pull it out, I'll like be like, this was what I did, and it became a self-published book, so like it can't be worse than this.
And the designing side of things, I mean, how'd you go from the? I mean, how'd you go from? Has you always been creative? And I mean, was designing kind of like the next step then?
It's actually a cute and very dorky story.
Okay.
So, Phil, my boyfriend and now fiance, I think it was after about less than a year of dating, it was coming up on Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. And he's also a tabletop game designer and like has been since we met. So that's part of what we would talk about is his game he was working on. So I was like, I'd never made tabletop game. Like, I'm going to make him a board game for Valentine's Day.
Wow.
And I'll have to show you pictures sometimes. It's literally what you would expect. Like construction paper cards with like cut out hearts on them, like glued together, like your typical grade school Valentine's Day card. But it was a game. And this idea of like a 2-player game of secrets and deception. So great for a budding relationship. And this idea of like some of the cards were face up and there was 2 fields and you'd like put secrets face down and kind of move the stuff around. Mm-hmm. So I gave him... Sorry, was it
like Fog of Love then?
I don't... No, not really. I mean, it wasn't... It was very mechanical. It was right. Like not story or anything like that. So I gave him this adorable dorky present and he loved it and we played it and he's like, so this is actually pretty good. You should do something with it. If you don't do anything with it, I'm gonna do something with it because this is good. And of course I'm like, oh, you're so cute, like that's nice, like yeah, building up my ego. He's like, no, I wouldn't say that. Like if it was bad I would tell you, like I would trash your first game if it was terrible, but no, this is actually decent.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because you were like, I'm just hoping that something that we play maybe once or twice and then...
Yeah.
Kind of like, that's it, then it's gone, and then we can always open it up next year and have a chuckle about it, and then you're getting told, no, you actually need to do something with this, and you're just like, do I?
Yeah.
You're taking me... I didn't realise we were going down in this direction in our relationship already.
Yeah.
That's very encouraging of you. Did it become something then? Did you make it into something?
Yeah, I did. Of course, then, you know, people are like, oh, your first game, and it's like, oh, you made this game, and then it just all of a sudden published, and there's very much like a ton of work and development that went in after that. It was like, oh, this is a pretty good game, and then I immediately hopped into the play testing funnel / meat grinder. And New York City has a great community of tabletop game designers. Mm-hmm. And so I started going to events and testing it, even going to conventions. I took the game to Boston Festival of Indie Games and really put it through the ringer trying to work on it and test it.
See, when you're testing something, is it difficult to be like, I don't know if you get it, people like Phil's obviously saying to you, right, this is good fun and stuff like that. Was there a lot of nerves when you're putting it in front of somebody for the first time that hadn't kind of played it? Were you kind of thinking, well, are they just going to be kind, or are they going to be kind of dismissive? I'm guessing it's a pretty kind of nervous time. I mean, it must have been similar when you were putting the book in front of people as well, I guess. Was it kind of strange to kind of like say, you know, something that you'd obviously made to be kind of a personal thing, and now you're putting it in front of other people to kind of make it a public thing? I mean, was there kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this? Was there doubts when you went first down the kind of the playtesting kind of stage?
I think I was in a weird position because, and I look back on my history and all the things I've done, because I had been through the Kickstarter process, which that is taken to the extreme, right? Like taking this thing you care about and love and putting it like literally in front of people and asking for money. And I'd also done a lot of posting, like writing articles and posting stuff online, stuff, fiction. I'd actually been going to meetups for fiction writing and like showing my work to people for years and years. So for this, I was in a really lucky position for bringing the game in playtesting, because I'd already been doing this for so many years, like putting my heart and my work in front of people, that at that point it was already kind of natural. So for me, I didn't really feel at that point, like that was 10 or 15 years ago when I started putting stuff out there. Like I'd gotten rid of all those nerves like years ago. So by this point I was kind of like, I want to make it better. Like I want to make something that will make people happy. And that helps a little bit too. That's like, I don't have a ton of ego about it, because, you know, I care about, I immediately look at a person. Are they happy? Are they having fun? Are they laughing? And if they're not, then I want to get them to a place where they will be happy and like having fun and laughing. And so it's like less about me and more about like the other people and the experiences that they're having.
I mean, that went on to become heart catchers. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I mean,
surprise.
It's a good guess. No, I've not got your website.
Yeah.
Good research. Not got website open right now. But I mean, was it kind of? I mean, is it strange to kind of like, that's a strange kind of journey to go down? Because usually, what happens is somebody actually has like a game in front of them, or a game idea in their mind, and they're saying, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm taking it to kind of the commercial level kind of straight away. I mean, what was the commercial journey with kind of like heart catchers? Did you go down the Kickstarter route with that as well, or did you go and get it published? I mean, how did you get it in front of people?
So the publishing journey for it was also weird and serendipitous. For the game design group that I was going to, one of the members who would host pretty often actually is Tim Rodriguez, who's awesome dude. He's done a lot of storytelling RPG stuff, but also has published games of his own. And I set up a coffee meeting with him just to discuss the game, you know, because I was like, you know, and get some feedback, like figure out what I should do, kind of pick his brain. And so we met for coffee, and I was showing him the game, and he was kind of like holding back a little bit. I'm like, yeah, so what do you think? He's like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. I'm like, that's great. Yeah, cool. You know, like I'm excited about it. He's like, so what are you going to do with the game? I'm like, well, a Kickstart maybe? I don't know. This is my first time. He's like, would you, are you so like interested in a publisher? Just really sort of cagey, right? I'm like,
kind of asking kind of what you want from the menu, and he's like, do you like cheese? Cheese a thing?
Yeah.
Do you like strawberries maybe? Is
that
a kind of thing as well? And you're just like going, what are you doing?
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm like, how could I have ever even thought of a publisher? Like, this is my first game. Like, no publisher. What? I'm like, just like, what? He's like, yeah, because, like, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to steal your game or anything, but I'd be interested in publishing it. And I was just like, what?
Did you, like, throw something at him? I would have done that. I'd have been like that.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I think a lot of people, a lot of people in the industry, people care. It's like you said, their baby. Like if someone had asked to publish a thing, be like, wait, you're trying to steal? This is my game. I want to do this. But yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, no, yes, I want a publisher. Sure, take it.
But I remember Carla Kopp. Yeah, she was kind of like trying to drop these really subtle hints to Tony Miller that she kind of liked the game, and Tony and then obviously Tony's like, well, thanks very much for telling me you would like to publish my game, and then she's like, no, I kind of want to really publish your game, and went, oh, okay, so yeah. But is it a kind of shock because you don't if you're designing a game and there's not many kind of, and here's your, you get people that will say, well, I'm going to go ahead and pitch to a publisher, and there's little kind of exactly how to engage with pitching with a publisher. And I always think that's something that maybe gets kind of missed out sometimes, is that there's an awful lot of information and diaries and stuff like that about your Kickstarter journeys, and I think a lot of people make their Kickstarter journeys quite public. And I think there's the kind of the whole, this is how you deal with a publisher kind of thing, is it maybe a little bit thing that's, I don't know, maybe it's because is it maybe because publishing or chasing that publishing deal isn't a crowd kind of funding thing? Is that Kickstarter, you're kind of encouraged to share every single thing that you've done on the journey, whereas I guess if you're just publishing is maybe more like a business kind of transaction, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. I think people are weirdly reticent about even considering or looking into publishers. I think people have a lot of assumptions about what that process is like. And probably, too, if you've paid, because the whole book publication journey is more public and people have more of an understanding of that. And that's kind of a nightmare. And that's why I self-published my book, was because I was like, okay, great. 6 months to 2 years to get an agent, and then another 6 months to 2 years to get a publisher if I'm extremely lucky. So it's like years of just rejection and torture, and maybe for nothing, right?
I guess it depends on your agent as well and what they're like. If they're sitting there going, well, this isn't the next Harry Potter, or this isn't the next Hunger Games, or this isn't the next, Maze Runner or something, you're just going, no, this is my own book. We don't need to copy kind of other kind of books. I guess the board game industry, because it hasn't kind of hit that thing, I guess because of the production time. I think I was speaking to someone quite recently about this, about you'll get titles which are quite similar, but it's not like you'll get a rash of people kind of saying, well, worker placement is obviously the sauce of the day, everybody start making worker placement games. I think what happens is worker placement games get popular. I think it kind of happened with legacy games. I think when Pandemic Legacy came out, then people were kind of like, I think people were saying, well, this is it, everybody's going to be doing legacy games, and so far I haven't seen any. Like, I've seen Seafall. But there hasn't really been that many. I mean, Charterstone is maybe another example, but we've not all of a sudden been flooded with like legacy games, which is kind of kind of cool.
They take a little bit of time to come through. Like, we have a few more coming down the pipeline. Betrayal at House on the Hill is getting a legacy. Yeah. But then that's kind of like, it's a big investment because you've got to be. Yeah. You're potentially looking at you're creating an experience with legacy games, I think. Yeah. I think, if I'm going to play, say,
my favourite game at the moment, which is Root. I know I'm going to be playing that again and again and again, and it's just the mechanics and everything that's going to be making it different. If it was Root Legacy, I'd be starting out with a blank forest, and then I'd be putting in a river somewhere, and then that would be changing the experience. But once I got to the end of the game, I would be finished. I wouldn't be kind of playing it again.
Right.
I guess the closest to that was maybe Charterstone recently, and that kind of came with a big fanfare. But I've not heard many people. I hear people going through the campaign, but I've not heard many people continually kind of talk about it the same way they maybe talk about kind of Pandemic Legacy. Don't know if that's maybe the circles that I'm moving.
Yeah. I mean, I think Gloomhaven had a little more of that, and it had like the reusable elements to it, so they made it with a legacy component, but then made it very replayable as well. Yeah,
I think, Isaac's included first aid kits and that thing as well. If you dig deep enough, there's a canoe. There's a inflatable canoe at the bottom of that box.
Oh my gosh, right.
As well as a secret passage. I'm pretty sure there's a secret passage at the bottom that you can knock and it kind of peels away and takes you into a far off land kind of thing, which is pretty cool. But, going back to Heartcatcher, so you're picking up your spoon off the table and reaching over and smacking him on the head and telling him to stop kidding you and tell the truth. But was that it? Was it that simple? Did it just kind of go up publishing from kind of there then? No.
I think working with publishers is great, and especially this day and age where if you want to kind of quote unquote make it as a tabletop game designer, you really just have to get so much stuff out there, and it's pretty much impossible if you're just doing your own stuff and doing your own Kickstarters, so you can really multiply your reach by getting different games at different publishers, and having a bunch of stuff happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I think it's great. I think everyone should do it. It's definitely been an experience for me, because I have done Kickstarters. I like being in charge of things. I like having control over things. And there's definitely that moment when you hand it off and you're like, because, you have always in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I could do this myself. I could launch it. These are all the things. These are the people I would talk to if I was doing a Kickstarter. And then all of a sudden it's just gone. And you kind of have to trust, there's a lot of relationship and trust at that point for they're going to do it different than you would have done it. And respecting that and kind of stepping back and waiting a lot of time.
Well, I remember John Gilmore talking about, John Gilmore, obviously, he does design stuff all the time. And then him kind of saying, well, there's certain games that I'm just going to, there's my ideas and everything like that. And then I go and I pass it off to somebody else and they go ahead and they do the development work and I still get involved. And he says there's a mixture of some games that he tries to stay involved in the process, depending on the agreement that he's got with the publisher, and then he's got other games that he kind of hands over the idea, and then he gets his copy like everybody else when it's kind of released, which is always kind of cool. Did that? With Heartcatchers being published, were you then? Did that spur you on? Did that get the creative stuff kind of going and everything like that? Were you then kind of saying, well, I can definitely kind of do this? Or was it a case of, well, I'm about to do the difficult second album. Where do I go next kind of thing?
Definitely more of the latter. I was in an interesting position that really overlapped with me starting to do marketing for a video game company for my full-time job. And that was, so I worked for a company called Dreamsale Game that was launching its first local multiplayer, which then became online multiplayer, robot battling game. And I have this thing, as you may have noticed, I like to pour my heart into things. So for this job, it was very much, so I was doing marketing, and I was basically the head of marketing and like launching this game. Wow. And it was this team of developers, producer, artists without any real marketing guidance or drive. You know, they're making this game, they had funding for it, and they're like, we need to figure out how to sell this. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, that would have been a time.
Yeah, so I came in, and obviously, like, I want to do it right, and poured a lot of time and energy into it, and really didn't have time. I had time to help with heart catchers, but for development, like, that was a year of my life. I guess, about a year. I was just, it was a lot, just so much going on. I really didn't have time or energy to create anything. And I was also going to a ton of conventions. I went to 15 shows over the course of that year. Both like PAX,
that's
first
exhausting.
PAX East, PAX South, PAX West. So there's a lot,
And are you being like the face of stuff and then talking to people about it and trying to get them interested? And I mean, at that point, were you just to the point trying to sell the game? Yeah, is that how it was?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility, because normally, I mean, the market is really strange, because I've done marketing as part of the podcast, because you have to. So you end up learning how to create noise. The sales side of things isn't really part of the podcast, because I don't need to, I guess, do I persuade people to listen? I don't go out in the street and grab folk and say, hey, do you like board games? And they say, what, like Monopoly? And then, I plug them in and send them on their way.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between the kind of the sales side of things. So did you stay in that company for long then, or did you say, well, actually, this is a lot of because it sounds like an awful lot of responsibility?
Yeah, so we grew pretty quick. I ended up eventually getting a team, and over the course, like, I guess after we launched just before PAX West, I think, of 2016. So I was there for about 9 or 10 months before the game actually launched, and I learned a lot. We did a lot of shows. We got a Discord. We started Twitch streaming, and the game didn't do quite as well as we had hoped it was going to do. You know, it didn't take the world by fire. It didn't take the world by storm.
Is it? I mean, is that the kind of was it the curse of the kind of the 7s out of 10s? Because people say that in video games.
Like, literally, that was the rating.
You know, it's kind of like, I think the 7 out of 10 is the worst rating you can get, because at least if you get like a 6 out of 10, it's like, well, I know you don't like it.
Yeah.
But a 7 out of 10 is kind of like, I can't be bothered really telling you whether I like this game or not, so I'm just going to give it a kind of a middle, which is really weird, because if I got a 7 out of 10 in an exam, I'd be really happy. But if I get a 7 out of 10 in my video game score, I'm going to be really sad, because it hits below the kind of the margin in terms of like Metacritic and Metacritic, thank you, piece of whatever. And I used to review video games, and I kind of I know exactly. I know the phrases used to come out, and it's just like, oh well, if you're a fan of the genre, and you're just like, I don't want to use that phrase ever in my life again. You know, it's like, it's like my mum in a restaurant with me, asking, do you think she should get the apple pie? And it's like, well, if you're a fan of apple pie, it's something you should consider, but if you don't like apple pie, then maybe you should give it a miss. And I've seen that kind of so many times, but I've also seen that it's like, I've played a lot of 7 out of 10 games, and I've had an absolute blast.
Yeah.
But for other people, it's kind of like the kind of like the death knell. It's like, this is a bad game. It's like, no, it's a 7.
Yeah.
If I gave you a choice of getting you either $100 or $70, you'd still be happy if I gave you $70. So
right.
Why are you so miserable? So did that then, with the reception and everything like that, did that prompt you to kind of like make a move then? Is that how it kind of panned out?
I think it was a combination of things, like, because Phil, my fiance, and we were living in New York City at the time, in Manhattan, and there was a number of factors where we were like kind of done with all of that. And he had a bunch of friends living out in Seattle, and we were eyeing very closely a move out here. He's a software developer, so obviously he like opens the floodgates on LinkedIn, and he's like, I'm kind of maybe looking for a job, and it's like it's like, oh, I want to take you out for coffee, I want to take you out for a beer, come and like let me pick your brain.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to be wanted. It's nice to be wanted, right? Isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's kind
so
of cool.
it all kind of happened at the same time where he was looking at places out here, got an offer from Amazon. I was, and I had even like with the company, you know, things were a little on edge. Things felt kind of tough, but I was like, hey, we're going to move out to Seattle. I still want to work here, and, you know, maybe we could do a long distance thing and keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you know, we really want to keep it in-house and keep this, like, because they'd had bad experiences in the past with remote work. And so we parted on good terms, you know, it just wasn't working out for, like, me going long distance. And I was sad. I definitely miss all the people I used to work with, but it was also creatively and energy wise like a new world, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna have a job for a little while, and I'm gonna have time to like think about what I want to do with my life. So that was scary.
That's awful, isn't it?
Cool, scary, intense, a lot.
Because you have a timetable, and you're like, well, at 6:30, I am drying my hair. If I'm not drying my hair at 6:30, the world is about to end. If I'm drying my hair at 6:20, everything is fine.
Yeah.
If I'm drying my hair at 7:00, I have slept in, and the world is on fire.
Yes, right.
So was that kind of like then you were moving into kind of the discussion side, the kind of the blog stuff, the kind of the advisory side, the panel side? Is that where you kind of where you went with next then?
I think I actually, because at that point I'd been away from my own stuff. Like I hadn't really been sharing or tweeting or anything for a long time. So I took a step back, really, instead of just sleeping right into it. And even considering, at that point, I wasn't even sure that games was what I wanted to do. I was very lost and kind of unmoored at that point because, you know, moved across the country, new city, new state. I was, maybe I should get another marketing job, work for one of the big video game companies. You know, Xbox is out here. There's kind of a lot of stuff swirling around in my head. And what really helped me at that point was, and what eventually became Game Design Daily, was looking at a lot of daily practices, kind of focusing on self-discovery of like meditation and journaling and exercise and coming back and trying to really identify what my next step should be. And did that, I mean, you sound kind of naturally kind of fairly kind of creative person. That if, you know, if I kind of left you in the room with like a couple of pieces of A4 paper and some felt tips, and if I said the worst thing I could possibly say to you would be, don't you put a mark on that paper, you know, and then if I went out and I says, I'll be back in 30 minutes and actually came back in 47 minutes, you would be climbing the walls kind of thing. So did that kind of get you back into the game design side of things then? Oh yeah, for sure. That was, I had to work through a little bit of blockage and kind of getting a sense of work up my confidence a bit because I had been out of the game. I was like, do I still know how to make games? Like, how do I even, what is this piece of paper? Which way is up? You know, getting back into how creation and creativity worked. But yeah, very, very quickly it got to a point where, because I had Confabula Rasa, which is one of the games I'm working on right now, I had actually made that during this whole time in New York City and put it aside. And now I was coming back, I was like, oh man, I don't even know what this is anymore. How do I even move forward? But yeah, with having that time and space, I was, and then starting the game design daily to really jump charge and build up my confidence again. Kind of the floodgates opened. I started doing the prototype a day for a week exercises, like started working on Confabula Rasa and other games, and yeah, that's the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. So where are you kind of now with things? I mean, if you know, what's the kind of, for people who, I mean, I've seen you about on Twitter an awful lot, and kind of people have seen it. So, well, if they rock up at your door, what are they expecting to find when they sit down at your table? I would guess that's such a bad analogy, but I don't care. Yeah, what kind of, I mean, what are you putting kind of out? Because as you said, you mentioned kind of like you're doing panels.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that just pick a topic and run with it? I mean, is there stuff that you kind of specialise in? Do you talk about kind of like the game design, kind of the various aspects of it? Or, I mean, do you just go in and are you just kind of like, you find that you're kind of covering more and more stuff as kind of like time goes on?
Well, my passion is really getting other people into game design and helping new people unlock their potential. I realize as I say that it sounds like like motivational speaker. I'm going to unlock your potential. But Sorry. Well,
that's fine. No, you have, I'm expecting a kind of a toll-free number you can call to kind
right?
of like donate now.
Yeah, kind of only 99 cents a minute. But ever since I was doing the community management back in New York City, like, people would come up, they'd be like a lot of students, a lot of first-timers, they would have this excitement in them, but also hesitation and fear. They're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start. And I would be like, well, just start, just because to me, it, like you said, it feels so natural. Like, just make something, just write on a piece of paper, just crumple a piece of paper, throw some dice.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. But you could see in their eyes that it still didn't quite make sense to them how to actually start. And that's really my big thing, is like those people who aren't sure how to start, the people who started and feel stuck, There's so many people out there with passion and excitement and the potential to make really cool things. And I think there's a lot of just fear and hesitation and uncertainty. And it makes me really sad, to see these people in any way stuck. And I want to help them, I want to get them over that barrier to see that they can do it, and it's not as scary as maybe they think it is.
It's about, there's two things that I see. There's people that have a vision, and they stick with that vision, and people like, say, Frank West, City of Kings, who he's an inspiration, because there is a guy who went straight in and said, I'm going to deliver a board game which is the size of a small car. And that's what he did with City of Kings, and he kept his kind of vision. And then there are other gamers who, other game designers who are quite easy to be quite floaty with their designs, and they'll just grab something and they'll just run with it, like Andrew Burkett at Atheris Games. And we had some amazing conversations, and he's like, he's had games about, he's had like mutant vegetable games. He's had a game about neighbours. He's had a game about, his last one was like supernatural socks. About ghost nice. Socks, and and it's kind of like, he's the kind of guy that would take, you would give him a piece of paper, you would come back, and he would have probably redecorated the entire room with these kind of plethora of ideas that he has. Do you think that people can get trapped into a vision? too easily? Do you think that they can decide that, or do you think, and the other side of it is, do you think people are looking for like the next kind of big thing, like the next kind of maybe terraforming Mars or Gloomhaven? Do you see that on your travels? You see people that they're not necessarily looking for the game, they're looking for the next kind of big thing?
Yeah, and I would say, because people are so used to, and new designers in particular, are used to seeing the finished product, and it's hard, and it takes a lot of work to get there. So they have this vision, and I was actually talking with someone after one of my panels about just this. He's like, yeah, I got this idea that I'm working on, and I'm like, okay, just you should make the game, prototype the game. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. But I mean, if I like sent you my document or something, could you look over? I'm like, that's not the game. And so many people, like, they want to write out all of their ideas. I've had people send me like a spreadsheet with a breakdown of their character types and the powers that each character has. And like, that's not a game. And like, I can't tell you if that's a good game or a bad game. The only way that anyone can tell you anything about it is if you make it and play it with them. And I think people have this, they want to build a world. They have like this, like you said, grand vision. And who is it? Ira Glass has a great quote about this that was turned into a YouTube video, where it's, when you start out, your taste is way higher than your ability. So you have like this taste and this like vision that you want to reach, but you suck at making things. And for a lot of people, just getting over that hump of like, you gotta work at it to get better at making things before you can achieve that thing. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Yeah. I also think that some people kind of, I've got a phrase that I use all the time in my job, which is I kind of do consultancy for kind of marketplaces like your Amazons and your eBays. I've got a phrase called being too close to the coalface, which is where somebody spends so much time with a product or an idea that they jump from stage 1 to stage 7 and they find it difficult to explain. They lose everybody because they're unable to explain stages 2 to 6 to people. So they'll say, well, this is this mechanic, and it's like, I don't know what you mean by that. And it's like, well, it's obvious you have to do this, this, and this, and it's like, I still kind of don't know what you mean. And it leads to frustration. Yeah. And then it leads to this thing, which is people talk about bad rule books and bad rule guidance and stuff like that. And that's a real kind of thing, I think, at the moment, is that is getting the ability to explain things kind of really, really well, which I'm really interested in kind of doing. I've been kind of toying around with it quite recently, and it's something that's quite kind of interesting to me. It's kind of cool. I mean, do you can anybody contact you in terms for advice, or I mean, do you offer kind of like, have you stepped over the line to start offering kind of like services to people? So if somebody wants to actually engage and say, could you work with me, kind of thing, is that something that you're kind of doing right now, or toying with, or have done?
It's definitely on my roadmap. To use a overused startup term.
My word.
Right? I come from the startup world. I know what we want.
Yeah, no, I'm just got startup bingo card here.
Yes, check.
I've got a line.
But yeah, that's definitely my vision for it. And I think too, this is my passion, and I've always wanted to make things, but also, like, I'm very interested in business and marketing, and I want to build my own businesses in addition to just, building games. And I know in this industry, it is very hard to make it just purely making and selling games. So I'm very excited and passionate about all the other adjacent things I could do as well. So like just writing about Game Design Daily. One of my designers from my group and I are working on a Game Design Lee workbook that's like a whole 30 for game design. Wow. It's like Game Design Daily every day for a month. So it'll be something a workbook someone can actually work through to get their creative juices flowing. And a bunch of ideas floating around as far as consultancy and contracting goes. I think for me, the big thing is it's so easy, especially in a creative industry, to fall into that trap of helping people. And people be like, oh, I want to work on this project. You know, a lot of times I don't have a lot of money. Maybe we can, if you can just give me some ideas, if I can pick your brain. Really, one of the trickiest part of becoming a consultant or contractor or working with people is finding that right balance of time for money. Honestly, just how do you make it, our time is so limited. How do you make it valuable for all the people involved? Yeah.
I mean, I think I see Brittany Bow has just got a pinned tweet is just, I'm not going to give you advice.
Yeah, exactly.
You can pay me for my time, but I ain't just going to give you advice, and I think it's going to get in that. I think it's going to get in that balance. I think, but it's also starting off as well, because at the beginning, people are going to go, well, why should I pay you anyway? And it's like, well, I've got lots and lots of experiences as well. Show me. And then you're kind of like, I want you to give me some money to show you my wares. But it's all kind of interesting. If people want to, if they've listened tonight, and they should be instantly dashing to your website. But if they've listened all tonight, and if they want to find out more about yourself, how do they find you on the internet? And internet web nets.
There's internets, the interwebs.
Yes. Something like that.
I make myself pretty easy to find. My website is emmalarkins.com. My Twitter and Instagram are also emmalarkins, and on Twitter especially, I'm very accessible. If you ask me a question or say hi on that, I'll usually respond. Again, I might not read over your entire game design document, but I'm happy to, if you're just getting started or want to make a design group in your area or that kind of thing, I'm very excited to help people out with that.
Awesome. So, as usual, we'll put all the links in the show notes, so we've got notes to show. I'm going to ask you back on again. I think we could talk again and again and again for hours. Lots of different topics.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
That would be. We could just because this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
If you want to keep an eye on what we are up to, you know where we are. I'm just going to say that. You know where we are. There's links in the show notes.
You know how to find us.
You know how to find us. Go to the Googles or Bing. Apparently Yahoo is still quite big in America.
Really?
But you can find... Yeah, apparently.
But why?
I don't know. Because it's maybe it's like EHAR.
Yeah.
That's an incredibly terrible thing to say. Just probably dropped all the listeners. But as we say, go to the Googles, search for us. You will find us. If you like us very, very much, then go to the Apple iPodcast thingy and drop us a rating or a review. And as we say, don't give us 10 stars, because I'm so egotistical, it's ridiculous, and I'll just use this as a further excuse to kind of make myself feel good about myself. But don't give me 1 star, because it does make us cry, and I am an ugly crier. But give us 5, because it's in the middle, and it's average, and we're a bit average. But the person who's not been average tonight is the rather wonderful, rather fantastic Emma Larkins. Yeah!
Woo!
And there's only 2 more things to do. First thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Emma?
I mean, okay, so I listened to your podcast a little bit. I'll not to stroke your ego too much, but this is the part where I'm supposed to get the goat, right? And rib you about actually being a wizard.
You can.
There? I mean, it's been pretty magical, so...
Right, okay. I can... Yeah, thanks. Every single one. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Emma. Say goodbye, Emma.
Goodbye.
Quicker than that.
Goodbye.
I'm only joking.
Goodbye. Bye. Bye.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll6s.com and go check out Emma's site because it's fantastic. It's good, some good reading in there and blogs. And if you ever see her on a panel, go and see her because it's all exceptionally interesting stuff. But until the next time, my throat's going. You can hear that, eh? Getting a bit bassy. Till the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.